Odyssey, Book 6. So Odysseus slept, the godlike survivor, overwhelmed with fatigue. But the goddess Athena went off to the land of the Phaeacians, a people who had once lived in Hyperia, near to the Cyclopes, a race of savages who marauded their land constantly. One day, great Nausithous led his people off to Scheria, a remote island, where he walled off a city, built houses and shrines, and parceled out fields. After he died and went to the world below, Alcinous ruled, wise in the gods' ways. Allied Athena now came to his house to devise a passage home for Odysseus. She entered a richly decorated bedroom where a girl as lovely as a goddess was sleeping. Nausicaa, daughter of noble Alcinous, two maids, blessed with the beauty of graces, slept on either side of the closed polished doors. Athena rushed in like a breath of wind, stood over Nausicaa's head, and spoke to her in the guise of her friend, the daughter of the famed mariner Demas. Assuming the girl's form, the owl-eyed goddess spoke. Nausicaa, how could your mother have raised such a careless child? Your silky clothes are lying here soiled, and your wedding is near. You'll have to dress yourself and your party well if you want the people to speak highly of you and make your mother and father glad. We'll wash these clothes at the break of dawn. I'll go with you and help you so you'll get it done quickly. You're not going to be a virgin for long, you know. All the best young men in Phaeacia are eager to marry you, as well they should be. Wake up now, and at dawn's first blush ask your father if he will hitch up the mule cart to carry all these sashes and robes and things. It'll be much more pleasant than going on foot. The laundry pools are a long way from town. The gray-eyed goddess spoke and was gone, off to Olympus, which they say is forever the unmoving abode of the gods, unshaken by winds, never soaked by rain, and where the snow never drifts. But the brilliant sky stretches cloudless away, and brightness streams through the air. There where the gods are happy all the world's days, went the gray-eyed one after speaking to the girl. Dawn came, throned in light, and woke Nausicaa, who wondered at the dream as it faded away. She went through the house to tell her parents, her dear father and mother. She found them within, her mother sitting by the hearth with her women, spinning sea-blue yarn. Her father she met as he headed for the door, accompanied by elders on his way to a council the nobles had called. She stood very close to her father and said, Daddy, would you please hitch up a wagon for me, a high one that rolls well, so I can go to the river and wash our good clothes that are all dirty now. You yourself should wear clean clothes when you sit among the first men in council, and you have 5 sons who live in the palace, 2 married and 3 still bachelors. They always want freshly washed clothes to wear to the dances. This has been on my mind. She was too embarrassed to mention marriage to her father, but he understood and said, Of course you can have the mules, child, and anything else. Go on. The servants will rig up a high, smooth, rolling wagon fitted with a trunk. He called the servants, and they got busy, rolling out a wagon and hitching up mules. Nausicaa brought out a pile of laundry and loaded it into the polished cart, while her mother packed a picnic basket with all sorts of food and filled a goatskin with wine. The girl put these up on the cart, along with a golden flask of oil her mother gave her, for herself and her maids to rub on their skin. She took the lash and the glossy reins and had the mules giddy up. They jangled along at a steady pace, pulling the clothes and the girl, while the other girls, her maids, ran alongside. They came to the beautiful running river and the laundry pools, where the clear water flowed through strongly enough to clean even the dirtiest clothes. They unhitched the mules and shooed them out along the swirling river's edge to munch the sweet clover. Then they unloaded the clothes, brought them down to the water, and trod them in the trenches, working fast and making a game of it. When the clothes were washed, they spread them out neatly on the shore of the sea, where the waves scoured the pebbles beach clean. Then they bathed themselves and rubbed rich olive oil onto their skin and had a picnic on the river's banks, while they waited for the sun to dry the clothes, when the princess and their maids had enough to eat. They began to play with a ball, their hair streaming free. Artemis sometimes roams the mountains, immense Taygetus or Erymanthus showering arrows upon boars or fleet antelope, and with her play the daughters of Zeus, who range the wild woods, and Leto is glad that her daughter towers above them all, with her shining brow, though they are beautiful all. So the unwed princess among her attendants. But when she was about to fold the clothes, yoke the mules, and head back home, the gray-eyed one sprung her plan. Odysseus would wake up, see the lovely girl, and she would lead him to the Phaeacian city. The princess threw the ball to one of the girls, but it sailed wide into deep swirling water. The girls screamed, and Odysseus awoke. Sitting up, he tried to puzzle it out. What kind of land have I come to now? Are the natives wild and lawless savages, or God-fearing men who welcome strangers? That sounded like girls screaming, or the cry of the spirit women who hold the high peaks, the river swells, and the grassy meadows. Can it be I am close to human voices? I'll go have a look and see for myself. With that, Odysseus emerged from the bushes. He broke off a leafy branch from the undergrowth and held it before him to cover himself. A weathered mountain lion steps into a clearing, confident in his strength, eyes glowing. The wind and rain have let up, and he's hunting cattle, sheep, or wild deer, but is hungry enough to jump the stone walls of the animal pens. So Odysseus advanced upon these ringleted girls. Naked as he was, what choice did he have? He was a frightening sight, disfigured with brine. And the girls fluttered off to the jutting beaches. Only Alcinous's daughter stayed. Athena put courage in her heart and stopped her trembling. She held her ground, and Odysseus wondered how to approach this beautiful girl. Should he fall at her knees, or keep his distance and ask her with honeyed words to show him the way to the city and give him some clothes? He thought it over and decided it was better to keep his distance and not take the chance of offending the girl by touching her knees. So he started this soft and winning speech. I implore you, lady, are you a goddess or immortal? If you are one of heaven's divinities, I think you are most like great Zeus's daughter Artemis. You have her looks, her stature, her form. If you are immortal and live on this earth, thrice blessed is your father, your queenly mother, thrice blessed your brothers. Their hearts must always be warm with happiness when they look at you, just blossoming as you enter the dance. And happiest of all will be the lucky man who takes you home with a cartload of gifts. I've never seen anyone like you, man or woman. I look upon you with awe. Once on Delos, I saw something to compare. A palm shoot springing up near Apollo's altar. I had stopped there with the troops under my command, on what would prove to be a perilous campaign. I marveled long and hard when I saw that tree, for nothing like it had ever grown from the earth, and I marvel now, lady, and I am afraid to touch your knees, yet my pain is great. Yesterday, after 20 days, I pulled myself out of the wine-dark sea. All that time wind and wave bore me away from Ogygia Island, and now some spirit has cast me up here to suffer something new. I do not think my trials will end soon. The gods have much more in store for me before that ever happens. Pity me, mistress. After all my hardships, it is to you I have come first. I don't know a soul who lives here, not a single one. Show me the way to town and give me a rag to throw over myself, some piece of cloth you may have brought along to bundle the clothes. And for yourself, may the gods grant you your heart's desire, a husband and a home, and the blessing of a harmonious life. For nothing is greater or finer than this, when a man and woman live together with one heart and mind, bringing joy to their friends and grief to their foes. And white-armed Nausicaa answered him, Stranger, you do not seem to be a bad man or a fool. Zeus himself, the Olympian god, sends happiness to good men and bad men, both, to each as he wills. To you he has given these troubles, which you have no choice but to bear. But now, since you have come to our country, you shall not lack clothing nor anything needed by a sore-tried suppliant who presents himself. I will show you where the city is, and tell you that the people here are called Phaeacians. This is their country, and I am their daughter, of great-hearted Alcinous, the Phaeacians' lord. Then the princess called to the ringleted girls. Stop this now, running away at the sight of a man. Do you think he is part of an enemy invasion? There is no man on earth, nor will there ever be, slippery enough to invade Phaeacia, for we are very dear to the immortal gods, and we live far out in the surging sea, at the world's frontier. Out of all human contact, this poor man comes here as a wanderer, and we must take care of him now. All strangers, all beggars are under the protection of Zeus, and even small gifts are welcome. So let's feed this stranger, give him something to drink, and bathe him in the river out of the wind. The girls stopped, turned, and urged each other on. They took Odysseus to a sheltered spot, as Nausicaa, Alcinous's daughter, had ordered. They set down a mantle and a tunic, gave him a golden flask of olive oil, and told him to wash in the river. Then sunlit Odysseus said to them, "Stay off a ways there, girls, and let me wash the brine off my shoulders myself and rub myself down. It's been a long time since my skin has felt oil, but I don't want to wash it in front of you. I'd be ashamed to come out naked in front of young girls." The girls went off and talked with Nausicaa, and Odysseus rinsed off with river water all the brine that had caked his shoulders and back, and he scrubbed the salty scurf from his scalp. He finished his bath, rubbed himself down with oil, and put on the clothes the maiden had given him. Then Athena, born from Zeus, made him look taller and more muscled, and made his hair tumble down his head like hyacinth flowers. Imagine a craftsman overlaying silver with pure gold. He has learned his art from Pallas Athena and Lord Hephaestus, and creates works of breathtaking beauty. So Athena herself made Odysseus's head and shoulders shimmer with grace. He walked down the beach and sat on the sand. The princess was dazzled, and she said to her white-armed serving girls, "Listen, this man hasn't come to Phaeacia against the will of the Olympian gods. Before, he was a terrible sight, but now he's like one of the gods who live in the sky. If only such a man would be called my husband, living here and content to stay here." "Well, go on. Give him something to eat and drink." They were only too glad to do what she said. They served Odysseus food and drink, and the long-suffering man ate and drank ravenously. It had been a long fast. Nausicaa had other things on her mind. She folded the clothes and loaded the wagon, hitched up the mules and climbed aboard. Then she called to Odysseus and said, "Get ready now, stranger, to go to the city so I can show you the way to my father's house, where, I promise, you will meet the best of the Phaeacians. Now this is what you must do, and I think you understand. As long as we're going through countryside and farms, keep up with my handmaidens behind the wagon. Just jog along with them. I'll lead the way, and we'll soon come to the city. It has a high wall round it and a harbor on each side. The isthmus gets narrow, and the upswept hulls are drawn up to the road. Every citizen has his own private ship. The market's there, too, surrounding Poseidon's beautiful temple, and bound by stones set deep in the earth. There men are always busy with their ship's tackle, with cables and sails, and with planing their oars. Phaeacians don't care for quivers and bows, but for oars and masts and streamlined ships in which they love to cross the gray salt sea. It's their rude remarks I would rather avoid. There are some insolent louts in this town, and I can just hear one of them saying, "Well, who's this tall, handsome stranger trailing along behind Nausicaa? Where'd she pick him up? She'll probably marry him, some shipwreck she's taken in from parts unknown. He's sure not local. Maybe a god has come to answer her prayers, dropped out of the sky for her to have and to hold. It's just as well she's found herself a husband from somewhere else, since she turns up her nose at the many fine Phaeacians who woo her." That's what they'll say, and it will count against me. I myself would blame anyone who acted like this, a girl who, with her father and mother to tell her better, kept the company of men before her wedding day. No, stranger, be quick to understand me, so that you can win from my father an escort home, and soon at that. Close by the road you will find a grove of Athena, beautiful poplars surrounded by a meadow. A spring flows through it. Right there is my father's estate and vineyard, about as far from the city as a shout would carry. Sit down there and wait for a while until we reach the city and arrive at my house. When you think we've had enough time to get there, go into the city and ask any Phaeacian for the house of my father, Lord Alcinous. It's very easy to spot, and any child can lead you there. There's no other house in all Phaeacia built like the house of the hero Alcinous. Once you're safely within the courtyard, go quickly through the hall until you come to my mother. She'll be sitting by the hearth in the firelight, spinning sea-blue yarn, a sight worth seeing, as she leans against a column, her maids behind her. Right beside her my father sits on his throne, sipping his wine like an immortal god. Pass him by and throw your arms around my mother's knees, if you want to see your homeland soon, however far it may be. If she smiles upon you, there is hope that you will return to your home and see your loved ones again. And she smacked the mules with a shining lash. They trotted on smartly, leaving the river behind. She drove so that Odysseus and the girls could keep up, and used the lash with care. The sun had set when they had reached the grove sacred to Athena. Odysseus sat down there and said his prayer to great Zeus's daughter. Hear me, mystic child of the storm god, oh, hear me now, as you heard me not when I was shattered by the earth-shaker's blows. Grant that I come to Phaeacia pitied and loved. Thus his prayer, and Pallas Athena heard it, but did not appear to him face to face, not yet, out of respect for her uncle, who would rage against godlike Odysseus until he reached home.